Hi there. Thanks for watching this episode of STEM Stories. We're a podcast that interviews women in STEM that have made the jump from academia into industry. And we're sharing unique stories and perspectives that aren't talked about enough. In this episode, we sat down with Josie Droz, a marine sciences student at California Polytechnic University. In our conversation, Josie dives into how her childhood experiences defined her interest in marine sciences, as well as her work with her nonprofit, Josie's Hands. We also discuss her future goals and what she's excited about within the industry. But before we get into that, did you know that STEM Stories is a part of Wisdom, Women in Science Demonstrating Outstanding Merits? Wisdom is a nonprofit that works with STEM college females to find opportunities in the industry, and we're taking a moment today to ask you to join our mission. Whether you can contribute financially or just by following us on social media, it would make a difference in supporting our work. Or if you know of someone we should interview next, let us know. You can learn more by visiting our website, www.womenin.science, or follow us on Instagram at women_in_science. Now here's the episode.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Dirk Frese. I'm the host of the STEM Stories, our podcast series, which really highlights women in the STEM field and their careers. And I'm very, very happy to have here today Josie Droz. Josie is a student of marine biology based in Seattle, Washington. And that's an exciting field. And I'm very, very happy to talk to Josie today about her aspirations, what motivated her to pick that field in the STEM fields, and what makes it so interesting to do studies in this area. Josie, let's start right away. So what made you decide to go into marine biology?
Yeah, I think it all started really not that long ago. I'm a first year in college right now, so I think it started honestly my senior year of high school. I was always planning on going into something, more language based. I've always loved writing, I've always loved history, so I never really saw myself going into STEM until my senior year. I took an ecology class, and I just found it so interesting, like the idea of biology, but on that bigger scale. I had like the opportunity, we spent most of the year learning about marine marine life in the Pacific Northwest. So we learned a lot about salmon and kind of the role that they play in our environment in the Pacific Northwest over there. But then we shifted our focus to marine reefs and like those kind of ecosystems. And I found those so interesting. We had fish quizzes every week. We had to learn how to recognize all sorts of different, purple queen anthias and double saddle butterfly fish. And at the end of the year, I was able to take a trip to French Polynesia with my class. It was
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, we went there for about a month, a little less. And we snorkeled and we met with researchers. We were able to go to this private island, Tetiaroa, and it was so inspiring and like the coolest thing ever to just see, these places where it's less touched by humans, and, learn like directly from the researchers who live there and are super committed to those Polynesian reefs. I also find like reef environments personally, I think they're my favorite marine environment to learn about because they are so bright and vibrant and they're so endangered right now. So it's a really pressing current topic. And I think it's, we have to move stat. Not that other parts of the ocean aren't endangered, but I mean, you can see like the reefs are getting less vibrant and just learning about those cycles and learning about how we can protect them, how we can prevent further damage, how we can hopefully reverse some of that damage, and kind of what it takes to do that. I think that I remember snorkeling and I had spent a lot of time that year. I'd done like a paper on blacktip reef sharks. They're these adorable sharks. They're probably like 3 feet long. that, but they can be pretty small. We saw a lot of babies that were like this big. And they're like super gentle towards humans, definitely more scared of me than I am of it. But I remember we were snorkeling and I turned kind of a corner around like a giant boulder that was covered in coral. And I came face to face with this black tip reef shark. And it was so amazing. I had spent, I mean, like the past school year just learning all the facts about their fins and what they eat and their impacts on the environment, and to just be able to like be, behind my snorkel, face to face with that animal. It was just, it was really amazing. I think it was so special to like be able to
Hmm.
learn about that and then to actually
Yeah.
see it right in front of me. And like not behind glass, see it kind of existing in its
Yes.
own environment. That was
I
amazing.
can
So,
imagine that makes a huge difference to see that really in person, because when you're sitting in a lecture hall and see some PowerPoints about something, or seeing really this, as you said, untouched, perfect, preserved
yes,
nature, that probably gave you, and that comes across, Josie, a huge boost and inspires you
absolutely.
to keep the world healthy and safe, and our environment as well. And you touched on earlier on salmon in the Pacific. And of course, salmon is very important as food stuff for us as well. And we are thinking then about aquaculture, and perhaps there's also something to be preserved and be careful about what we do in these cultures. And that's something you can really learn there as well. That's really exciting. And it's interesting to hear from you that you said you made the decision to go into the STEM field in high school, and you were considering other routes as well. So was it
Mhm.
then a certain teacher or a certain class which really inspired you to change course and say, now I go to the STEM field?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely was that class that shifted
Hmm.
what I was thinking. I applied to a lot of colleges with a different major. I never really saw myself as a STEM person, to be honest, in high school. I
Mm.
always felt like I didn't do as well in those as things that we're writing. But I think I also, especially through now being a marine sciences major, I've learned a lot about how my strengths of like writing and enjoying like learning about history really
Yeah,
can tie into the more scientific side of what I learn. And I think that, I mean, environmental law is such a massive thing, and that right there is a great example of that kind of like interdisciplinary skill sets that are needed for different careers. You can also, I mean, spend the rest of your life researching, which so many people do, but I think I've always seen myself as finding a happy medium between the two. But I would say it definitely came
that's
from that
great.
class, that experience. And I think through that experience too, I learned a lot about like we had a lot of cultural exchange, and I learned a lot about that
Hmm.
intersection between culture and science. And I think
Yes,
being able to put history and science and cultural knowledge, all of that together, I think kind of opened my eyes to the fact of, oh, STEM doesn't have to be, just numbers and equations and
exactly.
shapes. It could be so
It's
much
not
more.
just boring and non-social. No, it can be very much
Mhm.
the opposite. And I think your story is very motivating, because you said you were interested in languages, you were interested in history. You can apply all of that because when you are traveling the globe for various projects, you need language skills for sure, and really to spread the word about how to conserve the environment. I think that that's great. And also, as you said, yeah, even law is very, very important. And of course, that also plays a role in industry as well, because yeah, the industry is touched by marine biology as well. As I said before, aquaculture is a big deal. How to make it better, how to make it environmentally more safe. So there are so many avenues that you could go to. I think that's perfect to hear that from you. What what you think you can do, and we want to show that in our podcast as well. That there are so many different routes that you can take, and it's never a one-way street. And you can either go into academia or you can go to industry, as you were referring earlier on to.
Mhm.
When you are a woman in STEM, did you feel specifically some challenges that you were facing? Because we were talking about this general prototype of the STEM student, perhaps that it's a little bit boring, perhaps, or you have to be a certain geek. Did that influence you in a way? Did you see any challenges when you decided to go down that route?
I would say honestly, I've been very lucky. I grew up with my mom. She's an OBGYN, so she's a doctor. So she's very smart woman, and she knows her biology better than I know mine. So I've definitely always had a role model of a woman
Good.
in STEM to look up to. So I think I was lucky enough to kind of grow up in a household where I was encouraged to, do whatever um, I felt that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I think also, honestly, being here, there's so many other women in my major. I think it's mostly women, actually, in marine
Oh,
sciences
wow.
here. Yeah, which is amazing. And it's
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 great.
really
Yeah,
nice
that's
to, yeah, be able to collaborate with women and not feel like the minority and not feel like um, I'm kind of
that
intruding on a space that
that
I
might
don't
help
belong.
overcome some obstacles. Absolutely. That's good that you are not the lonely person there.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and that encourages in itself. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, and thank you for mentioning your role model, your mom being an OBGYN. I now have to say as well, my father was an OBGYN as well. So
Oh, no way.
somehow say similar upbringing in a certain way and similar topics probably over lunch and dinner. Uh,
Hmm.
so I also learned and saw that you also did something very different, but which was also environmentally somehow involved. You started at a very, very young age a certain project. I don't want to give it away. I want to leave it up to you to talk about your nonprofit activities at very young age. What did you do?
Yeah, so when I believe I was 7, I founded a nonprofit called Josie's Well. We raised money to build wells in Ghana, and that was a lot, ton of different ways we raised that money. I did a lot of speaking, but my favorite way to raise money for that was we would do water stands. So it'd be like a lemonade stand, except I'd just give out cups of water and kind of educate people about the water crisis in Ghana and overall in a lot of countries. But specifically, we focused on Ghana. We worked with another nonprofit called Water Access Now. So I'd feed my funding and through them. But yeah, we raised money to build wells in Ghana. We ended up raising, I believe, around $90,000. And we
Wow.
I think that funded about 10 wells. I was
Wow.
lucky enough to be able to take a trip to Ghana when I was younger and see those
Yeah.
wells and kind of again kind of see that intersection between culture and also science. We got to see some of the wells being built, and I was a lot younger at the time and less interested in all of the, specific scientific parts of it. But it was amazing to see kind of the health impacts that came from clean water. I mean, it's so incredibly crucial to life. And you hear about all sorts of diseases that come from not being able to have a clean source of water. And
Hmm.
so, every well being built is a community of people that don't have to be exposed to those diseases, and they have, a place where they can get water that um, actually benefits their health instead of puts them at risk. So I think that
Great.
was really amazing. But yeah, that's Josie's Well. That's
Great.
what I
First of all, congratulations to that Josie's Wells initiative, and then also the money that you raised and what you could achieve in Ghana there. That's great. And I can imagine that really, as it was also around environment and culture and different cultures and how to
absolutely.
save the world in a way, that this inspired you also for probably picking the studies that you are currently doing. I can imagine these childhood experiences for us are very forming for all of us, I think. And so probably this was one of the things, the stepstones leading to where you are today. Um, so you said you're in the first year right now. So what are the next steps looking like that you are planning as far as you can plan right now? What are when do you graduate and do you have already any idea what you would love to do next? Do you have any plans like that? And do you get mentorship for doing that at university? That would be interesting for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, So yeah, I'm in my first year. I should graduate in 2029,
Hmm.
which if all goes well.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in these next coming years, I think it's a lot about getting involved in labs. Like I mentioned earlier, I go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and their big motto, Cal Poly's big motto is learn by doing. So they
Hmm.
really encourage us to get our hands dirty, get into labs. There's research spaces open for undergraduates. It's not as competitive as it is at some other schools. So like really getting involved in labs, possibly even by the end of this year, and starting to um, go out and actually experience. Kind of the environment around me. I mean, we're 15 minutes from the beach here, so it takes a short little
Ah,
drive and you can kind of see everything you're learning up close and personal. So, I think definitely like being in contact with the amazing staff here and becoming more involved in those labs is definitely what I'm planning on doing in the near future. I think as we go past college, I don't have a set like career path. I don't have one thing I'm going straight to.
hmm.
I've always kind of followed what I feel passionate about, which is what led me here
Yes,
to marine
that's good.
sciences.
That's good.
Yes.
Yes.
But like I mentioned, I mean, I love to talk, I love to communicate. And so I think that really just finding places where maybe I can advocate or I can use the knowledge that I learned about marine sciences and also, find that find that place where I'm able to use my skills of communicating. Like I mentioned, I think environmental law would be really interesting.
Hmm.
There's so much happening with that right now, so definitely
Yes.
something that like needs some attention. But I think really it's just following what I'm passionate about. I also, not STEM related, I love working with kids. So I've been thinking about a possible minor in like child development here at Cal Poly. Possibly finding ways to get kids involved and like I think there's so many different ways
Yes,
that it could go. And I'm just excited to kind of keep following things I'm passionate about. And I think that I will be able to find a place somewhere where
for
I'm
sure.
just passionate about what I'm doing and loving what I'm doing. Yeah.
But that's great how you describe that. That shows the huge breadth of opportunities, possibilities.
Absolutely.
I'm also not worried that you find something that suits your passion very well later on. But one needs to see the possibilities, and that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast. We want to show as many possibilities as possible to young students what's out there because. Also, when I was studying, nobody really told me what happens after you do your master's
Right.
or PhD or whatever. Um, so I was really longing for having mentors, and that's the reason why we do this here as well, because I think that could help a great deal. And you are in this case a mentor for other listeners here as well. That's very, very important. And based on your experience so far, as you are early in the process, but you're so passionate about this, it's so inspiring, Josie. What would you recommend to others who enter similar fields? It doesn't have to be marine biology, but STEM fields in general. What is your recommendation how to approach this and how to avoid possibly some stumbling blocks?
Yeah. I think I feel like I keep saying it. I don't mean to sound repetitive, but really following the
Hmm.
things that get you excited, the things
Yes,
you're passionate about. I mean, I saw those sharks in the reefs and I was like, this is awesome. Like this is where I want to
you will
be.
never forget that. Yes, for sure.
Never, no. And I think
Yeah,
like, and again, I never saw myself as a STEM person up until then. So I think like
that's
not
good.
writing
Yeah.
it off, not saying like, oh, well, I don't love math, so I don't know if STEM is for me. Honestly, like even the
Ah,
idea of, oh, I'm so sorry. Even the
no.
idea of being on a podcast that is centered around women in STEM almost feels a little um it almost feels like I'm like, wow, like I'm really here because
Hmm.
I never saw myself as someone who, would kind of pursue STEM really until I found something I was passionate about and I tried it. So I think like the advice that I have is really to just like find what gets you excited. If that's in STEM, if that's not in STEM, just finding what makes you excited and following that, because really you have so much more success when you love what you're doing and you love what you're learning instead of,
I
what
agree
you think you should
100%.
be
I
learning.
agree 100% and have probably more experience than you at your young age. And that you say this already is great and really awesome. And there's a lot of wisdom, coming back to the term wisdom, in it, what you're saying there as well. And you also mentioned something which is, I think, exciting. You said people shouldn't be afraid of STEM because it sounds like engineering and math is so difficult and dull in a way, which it isn't on the one hand. On the other hand, if you are passionate about it, you can achieve what you need to achieve, and don't be afraid of things out there. Do what you are passionate, what you are burning for. Absolutely, I can only resonate what you are telling us here. That's so inspiring and nice to see how you transmit that message to our audience. That's really awesome. I think with that, we can close our podcast for today. It was very inspiring, very motivating. Wishing you a lot of luck. And as you are progressing in your studies, I would be very happy to come back to you in, let's say, a year or two and see what your progress is, because I think that might be an interesting story to develop for our listeners as well. Where is Josie in 2028 and 2029 possibly, and what's going on there? I can imagine this would be a very interesting story to follow. And I'm very grateful that you have been here with us with STEM stories fueled by wisdom. Thank you so much, Josie. Have a great day and talk to you soon.
Incredible.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.